Good morning everyone. My name is Sarah Doherty and I am the Marketing and Events Coordinator here at Hornbill. I'd like to welcome and thank you for joining today's webinar where we will be having a presentation on simplifying the challenges of modern ITSM with Abdi Hamisi, Sales Manager, and Steve Boardman, Product Manager here at Hornbill. Just to inform you, Delegate Auto will be muted during the presentation to help facilitate flow and timekeeping. If you have any questions during the presentation, please type them into the GoToMeeting questions facility on the right-hand side of your screen. We will collate questions and answer them at the end of the presentation. Thank you for taking the time to attend. I will now pass you over to Abdi and Steve.
Thanks, Sarah, and welcome everyone. Thank you for taking time, Sarah said, to join us for our webinar. So over the next 40 minutes or so, Steve and I are going to take you through a presentation here, including a demo of the Service Manager solution. And we'll spend a bit of time talking about the sort of simplification of some of the challenges around modern ITSM just to begin with. So let's get underway. So first and foremost, I guess what we're looking at here really is a collation of some of the key areas where we've seen and heard from our customers that they're experiencing trouble and challenge, if you like, in regards to delivering their service desk and their service management requirements. So these are kind of broken down into 5 key areas, and we'll spend a little bit of time just looking at these before we go forward on this for you. So the first area that we hear on pretty much every single case when we speak to customers and prospects is around upgrades. Upgrades are expensive, they are time consuming, and regardless of how you paint it, it's always going to be a challenge to do an upgrade because you have to stop what you're doing and effectively do a project to move yourself forward and to take advantage of new features and functionality from your vendor. And obviously working with SupportWorks, we understand very clearly the challenges around upgrades on SupportWorks, and obviously the longer you leave those, the harder it becomes to take that new upgrade and to move on to the latest functionality available from Hornbill. Second area that we see, again, is around customizations. Again, this probably goes hand in hand with the upgrades piece. The more you customize the solution, the more difficult it becomes to upgrade in certain areas. So simple things like form design can become challenging when it comes to an upgrade. Either you have to redo them or give up your customizations in some instances in order to move forward to the latest version of SupportWorks. The third area really is around complexity, and again, not hiding any punches at the end of the day. So SupportWorks is a complex tool. It is very powerful, but that comes with the need for a high degree of internal knowledge on how to administer and manage that solution, and that comes again at a cost when it comes to training. And most painful probably is the idea of when somebody that you have trained up to that point has moved on or gets promoted, and you're left with having to start over again with getting an expert up and running. Okay, so again, these are all areas that we hear quite regularly from our customer base. Usability, again, we've touched on SupportWorks being a powerful tool, and there's little question about that. It is powerful, it does do a lot of stuff, but the feedback we get nowadays and over the past few years has been around the intuitiveness of the tool, specifically when you put up against sort of modern apps and solutions that we perhaps use in our consumer lives particularly, which tend to be really easy to use, mobile, available wherever you are. And all of that kind of stuff comes along with that. A couple of other areas, obviously having to step outside of SupportWorks in order to do communication. You see that as a common thing that comes back. Having to use your emails or other forms of collaboration in order to exchange knowledge and information. And the last point here around reports is something that comes up quite regularly. There is a powerful reporting engine in SupportWorks, but it is complex and it can be a little bit difficult sometimes to get the data you want out of the system. The last area is really around cost of ownership, and really this kind of sums up the previous 4. All of those things make SupportWorks and tools of its genre in terms of on-premise software particularly more expensive to run, purely because the complexity, the fact that you have to do upgrades and all of those kinds of aspects, as well as the hidden costs that come along with having to have your own servers, operating systems, heating, cooling those servers, all of that kind of stuff that comes with having an on-premise piece of software. Okay. So what have we been doing about it? Well, as an organisation, Hornbill's been looking at how we advance things for our customers and ourselves as an organisation. So over the last few years, we've been working away in the background building the Hornbill platform, and we built that around a really simple, powerful idea. And really what that comes down to is taking all of the sort of modern, intuitive, collaborative technology that's around today that wasn't around when we started down the SupportWorks route, and trying to bring that into play in terms of the business applications that we need to do at work. So one of the things we've done very successfully, I think, in the Hornbill Service Manager is to bring to bear all of those modern, intuitive, collaborative tools, combine those with the sort of social aspects and put that all into one package and one place where you can actually get your job done effectively. So what you get with Hornbill Service Manager is an intuitive, quite easy to use, friendly, familiar consumer type app, which basically allows you to undertake all the stuff that you need to do from a service management perspective, but do it in a way that's easy to do and doesn't take a lot of picking up. But most importantly, all the information that's important to you comes to you rather than you having to go looking for it. So on the Hornbill platform, we've got a number of applications available to you, the first of which is Hornbill Service Manager, which we're going to take out a look at today. But as part of our presentation today, we're going to be looking at a number of applications sitting on the Hornbill platform, drawing on the collaborative technology that we've built in there to deliver what we call collaborative IT service management. And the net result really of that solution, if you like, is that you should find yourselves with a solution that allows you to better share knowledge and ideas, to collaborate with your team, to collaborate globally, and to, as a result, boost your productivity. But also, being a cloud-based solution, it allows you to work from anywhere pretty much. Okay. So addressing some of the questions around effective communication really is important, and the other area we're going to look at today is the concept of software and service. So just to touch on those two bits before I hand over to Steve. In terms of effective communication with Hornbill, you can use it anywhere, on any device, at any time, and also in any language that happens, because we've built in some very powerful language capabilities that not only allow you to translate on the fly, so you can have conversations with people in different languages, but also natively translate the app into whatever language you want to see it presented in. One of the things that we're going to touch on, and Steve will probably demonstrate for you as we go through, is the concept of explicit and tacit knowledge. And just to be specific, what we mean by tacit knowledge is that conversational type of knowledge that we all share daily when we exchange emails, for example, or have a chat at the coffee machine. It's that information that we just know, stuff that you don't readily write down and put into a document. So just to paint a scenario, working on a complex issue, the ticket's logged in your service desk solution, but the exchange of knowledge and information happens typically in your emails as you reach out to your experts and your colleagues to try and find the answers. So that concept of tacit knowledge is the part that we're going to try and show you today. And if we can find a way of tapping into that, making it reusable, making it searchable, and retaining that knowledge, that becomes a powerful asset for your organisation. Obviously, we still deal with explicit knowledge, manuals, process documents, all of that kind of stuff, but that's all dealt with in the Hornbill Document Manager, and Steve will give you a demonstration of that as we go through. So I touched on the concept of software versus service, and really this is, I guess, just a concept that's probably worth just dwelling on for a moment. So, with SupportWorks, you get a piece of software which you install on premise, or you can take that piece of software and have Hornbill host it for you, and we offer if you like, a hosted version of SupportWorks, which we have badged as My Service Desk. Both of these are perfectly good solutions. However, times have moved on and people are typically looking for something that's much more service orientated. So with Hornbill Service Manager, what we actually offer you is a true service, in that there is no software that you have to get your hands dirty with. It's purely a case of logging in and using the service. And why is the distinction between service and perhaps hosted software? Well, with hosted software you still have to go through upgrades, because the way the software is written typically means that the vendor releases every 6 to 12 months a new release of the software, and you have to then go through and plan, execute, deploy that release, if you like, to get the benefits. With Hornbill Service Manager, what you get is continuous deployment. So in very simple terms, it's like your Facebook or your Google or your online apps that you use outside of work. There is no software to install, there is no upgrades to do. The system's simply up to date, and whenever there's a new feature you'll get notified about it, and you can use that straight away without having to wait or do anything specifically. Okay. So as a result, with Hornbill you get rid of all those upgrades, and effectively you're always up to date with the latest features, because the system's automatically updating itself, and as such you don't have to kind of stop and think about those upgrades that we know can be painful and time consuming. Further to that, there's no disruption, because obviously all you have to do is log in, we take care of all the work in the background, and you'll find that new features will appear all the time, and we provide inline training, and again during the demo Steve will probably touch on how we do that. Last but not least, we touched on one of the challenges being customizations And so, recognizing that issue with support works and tools of that sort of genre, we have built into the Hornbill platform the concept of 100% guarantee that any customizations that you build or make within the tool, whether that's form design, process, whatever it may be, all of that continues to work regardless as we keep evolving the solution and rolling out new features to you. Okay, so a bit of a whistle-stop tour there. I'm going to hand over to Steve at this point, and he's going to take you through a quick demonstration and show you what the Service Manager tool looks like.
Great, thanks Abdi. So let's dive straight in and we'll have a look at Service Manager from a couple of different perspectives. We'll have a look at what our end user's experience may be, who we're supporting, have a look at the Analyst View or the Service Delivery Manager's view using Service Manager, and then look at what sort of output we can get once we're logging tickets and getting all that data in Service Manager. So first and foremost, we're looking at the self-service portal that's provided here. It is available in any language, as Abdi referred to. It supports single sign-on, as I'm sure you'd expect, and it can be customized and branded codelessly through the admin tool. What it will provide is each user with a tailored experience based on the services that they receive from your business. I use the term business rather than IT because Service Manager is equally at home sitting in IT as it is in HR, facilities, marketing, whichever services you want to use this, or all side by side. So we have a look on this occasion. We've got a user that's logged in called Steve. He's got access to all of his services. As I mentioned here, we've got things like facilities, home working, my benefits from HR, and office and supplies. It's entirely up to you what you define, but the users will only see the services they're subscribed to. Steve can favouritize the services that he most commonly uses. He can see where he's got active requests, and he can also see which of those services he's subscribed to are currently impacted, or you as the support provider have flagged those services as being unavailable. So if we take a scenario where Steve's working from home, can't connect to his VPN and he's looking for help or looking to self-help, the service portal is a great place to start. What we can see across the top here are some bulletins and information that are being pushed out, and these are context sensitive to the services that Steve's subscribed to. So he's only getting notifications about issues that relate to the services he uses, and he's not getting bombarded by information and noise. But we'll drill down into that home working service on this occasion, and we can see here a number of things. First and foremost, if you've marked the service as being unavailable, we can push that information out. If the team are already aware of an underlying issue and you've created a problem or a known error, then why not publish that out? Provide the workaround information in non-technical terms to the user, see if they can self-help by using that workaround. If they can't self-help, how's the quickest way they can let the problem team know that they're also impacted by this? Well, they can simply use the Me Too option. This will associate them as an impacted user. They don't have to concern themselves with logging a repeat incident. The problem management team don't have to go looking for those related incidents and associating to the problem. The customer can very quickly associate themselves, and from this point forward they can receive notifications about updates or the resolution of that particular issue. Now, if there isn't any known issues, where else can Steve look? Well, we can push out information, knowledge, FAQs to Steve to allow him again to self-help. And on here we can see FAQs that include embedded videos, hyperlinks. They could simply be instructions in terms of what you need to do and where you need to go to do that. In this example again, let's say, well, there's nothing useful here, and Steve actually needs to make a request to the team that supports this particular service. So this is where we can introduce our request catalogue, and this is where you can define for each service that you offer the different options that are available to Steve. So on here he could fill in a form to request a callback at a convenient time with the best number to get him on. Maybe he hasn't even got his VPN software set up yet, so maybe he wants to schedule that in, or if he simply wants to report a VPN access issue, he can follow the instructions here. Now, this is just a very quick and simple way of actually raising that issue in the first place. So I'll just put here, unable to connect. Now, these questions and linked questions that we're defining here are all built for a graphical tool in the admin side, which we'll have a look at shortly, but they provide the users a very simple, intuitive way of just getting the information logged. So here I'm providing not only the description, but also maybe the asset or CI I'm having the issue from. Once the user has then logged that request, they immediately get visibility of your fulfillment process, the steps you're going to go through to actually resolve that VPN issue for them, what they can expect and how far you've got. Obviously from here they can provide updates, they can add attachments, they can see all updates that have been marked as being public to them via the timeline as shown here. Now that's all great if Steve knew where to start, but if you're offering a lot of services, how does Steve know that he necessarily has to go to the home working service to look for FAQs and known issues, or to actually raise a request? So to make that much more simple and straightforward, we've introduced a Federated Search option across the middle of the portal here. So the user can just simply come in and start looking for things that are interesting to them. So if I was having a VPN issue, I can just simply type that in and I'll be presented with known issues, FAQs, or where I go to report an issue, or perhaps any of my active tickets that I've still got open. Well, if we change the context for a second and say maybe look for what's the company policy on the allocation of mobiles and allowances, and where do I go to actually request a new mobile device. Again, that's all easy and simple to me by just putting in simple search terms into that search facility. Okay. So that's very much about looking at what the end user's experience looked like, but how do we bring all that information together in the first instance, and how does the analyst view of that look? So I've just switched to the user app, and I'm logged in as Graham, one of our analysts here. First thing Graham can see when he logs in is reference about that ticket that we've just logged here, 195 by Steve. He could obviously have picked this notification up on his native iOS or Android app through the platform as shown here, or he could have picked up an email with that notification as well. But if we have a look at actually what those services are that actually Steve had the option to raise issues against, if we drill into those service configuration, we can see all the services, whether they're IT related or whether they're facilities or HR. We'll drill into that home working service. We can see all the things I'm sure you're expecting to see, which is things like portfolio status, who's subscribed to that service, how are they subscribed to that service, which, if any of your teams specifically support that service, its current status, and then where we go to set up things like the request catalogue that come in as incidents, or those that are going to come in as service requests, or if we want to design specific forms and custom fields, or if we want to use limited visibility of our category structure when we're raising tickets. All of the configuration is done here, as is the ability for you to define the bulletins that we're cascading across the self-service portal, where you set up your FAQs, and you can see how useful they are and how many times they're being accessed. But also we can have a look at what's underpinning those services that you're providing. What CIs, assets, etc. are actually making the provision of that service possible. And if we want to, from here, we can use our Explorer to actually have a look at all of the relationships that help with that service. So here we're not just looking at things like the CIs that underpin it, we're looking at the tickets that have been raised against it. If I want to reduce that noise down and just have a look at the relational dependencies, I can see these are bidirectional if they're set. And for this home working service, I can see not only the gateway and the software that underpin it, but also each of the home workers' PCs or laptops that are linked and actually have access through that gateway. So all of that is graphically available to me. One of the other key aspects that underpins how we provide Service Manager is the concept of the business processes, or the fulfillment side of working in Service Manager. So we'll just switch context very briefly to have a look at our admin tool, and I'm just going to drill into a couple of the options that are available here: progressive capture and our business processes. Now, business processes are all to do with the actual fulfillment side, and we do, as I'm sure you'd expect, again, ship with out-of-the-box instant problem change processes. But we give you the ability to edit those or come in and create your own processes. And the key takeaway from this is that you can build your processes graphically using this drag and drop canvas. You can visualize the flows, you can set up your stages. But one of the key design tenets for this was that it was not to be prescriptive in terms of how you have to use the tool. You shouldn't have to change your process to fit how the tool works. So examples of this may be, if you're working with incident management and you want to use service level timers, then great, you may want to choose to use a fix and a response timer. But you can choose what constitutes them starting and what marks them as being achieved. Or for different types of tickets, if you only want to use a fix or response timer, or if you don't want to use them at all, it's entirely up to you. But when you're looking in the context of change and you're configuring things like impact assessment tasks, backout plans, authorizations, routing, round-robin assignment, email notifications, checkpoints, decisions, all of that can be built simply and powerfully in this particular tool. And all of this, if you like, perceived complexity can be hidden from the end users behind the graphical heads-up display that we briefly saw on the self-service portal, but I shall come back in a little bit more detail now from the analyst perspective. But that's all very much to do with the fulfillment side. We also have looked to address some of the challenges with the actual logging experience in the first place. Now, we have had feedback about SupportWorks and other tools of its particular generation being quite complicated to sit in front of and look at a big form with lots of fields and knowing which fields to fill in if it was an instance of this type as opposed to an instance of that type. And that couldn't be a more different experience to if you were, say, booking a holiday online or you were buying insurance online and you go to any of these websites. They simply guide you through a series of questions, one question at a time. Depending on your answers, it will branch accordingly to the next questions until you've eventually either booked your holiday or taken out your car insurance. And again, what we've provided you here is a graphical tool to build those questions and those decision points, depending on the outcomes, to allow you to create a tailored experience when you're logging tickets, either as the end user or as the analyst. And we'll have a look at what that looks like in a second. So if we come back up to the analyst view of the world and just touch on a couple of the sort of key areas that either our analysts, our change managers or our service delivery manager will be quite familiar with, and that's the concept of having your request lists. Now, these request lists are context sensitive, so when Graham's logged in, if he doesn't have the rights to work with service requests or problems, etc., those icons wouldn't be visible. Nothing's greyed out. If he's entitled to use it, he'll see it. If he doesn't, it will be hidden. But this does allow me then to look at my request list and look at all the ticket types that I'm for tickets that I'm responsible for directly. Or if I work in multiple teams, potentially I want to look at this in the context of all the teams that I belong to. Or I could look at it where tickets have been logged against services that my team supports, or tickets that I'm following where I've been added as a member. And I'll come on to all those options in a second. But what we've also listened to and learned from some SupportWorks is trying to give some control back to the individual analysts, let them control the views, create the views that they want to work in. So alongside these default views, each analyst can come in and create their own views. They don't have to go to the administrator to ask them to set views up. The administrator doesn't have to understand how to edit the data dictionary, how to work with the open call table, which columns to use, what SQL context to put in there. All of that complexity is hidden away, and each analyst can simply come in and using a clause builder say, I want to create a view that's looking at high priority incidents, and potentially I want to just create a view that's looking at high priority incidents against one of the services that my team supports. It's as simple and easy to create as that. But once I've created those views and I'm working in that context, I can also create content and charts for my own personal dashboard. And I can do that again simply and intuitively using those views. So if I've set up a view here to look at high priority incidents, I might want some charts to look at that by which teams are responsible for those high priority incidents, or which individuals are looking after them. Or if I wanted to switch it up another way, I might want to have a look at which of my customers are impacted by those high priority incidents. So I'm going to go in here and create a new chart. I'm now going to see here that we've got quite a fair split between Anna and Steve that are impacted by these. But if I save that and then come back up to my request list view, I can simply then toggle between that traditional request list view and my personal dashboard and see that new chart that we've just created here. Now, because it is my personal dashboard, I can move things around, make them bigger, etc. I can also drill down immediately into any of the content on those dashboards to take me back to that particular request list. And if I so desired, I can export that data out to CSV simply and intuitively with the data that I'm interested in. Okay. But as well as having the ability to create those views, you've also got quick access to data. Using the quick filter on the left-hand side here, if I wanted to look for everything that was VPN related, I can simply type that in. If I wanted to look for everything that Brian in my team was currently looking after, I can use the same filter. And if I'm on the phone to Anna, the customer, what tickets has she currently got that are active that sit within my team and the views that I'm entitled to see? So it's quick access to that information. But that then brings us on to actually logging tickets in the first place. We've seen that we can do that via self-service portal. As you'll be familiar with in SupportWorks, we have the concept of the embedded mailboxes, the autoresponder rules for automatically logging, or giving you the ability to manually review and create those tickets. You can log tickets via third-party tools using our APIs, or you can go ahead and use our progressive capture to manually create a ticket. Now, one of the other challenges we've looked to address here is actually the need, when you're logging a ticket, to know whether you actually have to open up the instant logging form or the service request logging form before you've actually spoken to the customer and taken the information. Trying to do away with that issue altogether here with Service Manager by simply providing you with the progressive capture approach where you can actually ask the questions before you actually decide whether it is an instant or a service request. So on this occasion, I'll use myself as an example. I've called in. Am I calling in about an issue with my recent blue screen ticket that I've raised, and if so, the analyst can drill down and give me that update. If I'm not, what services am I calling about? What options can I possibly raise here? If I'm a Mac user, maybe I'm looking to report one of the following issues. If it's more generic, maybe we need to ask some questions to actually get to the bottom of this. So I could say here again, maybe I'm having a word printing issue. So let's put it here, unable to print. Do I now know enough, based on who I'm speaking to, the service they're calling about, the issue they've got, to raise this as an instant, the service request, a change, etc.? Now, just for argument's sake, if I said it was a change, it's going to guide me down the questions that you've linked to the change route. But if I go back up and mark that as an incident, it's now going to take me through the questions that you've set up and whether you've made them mandatory or not. So here I'm going to mark this down as a printer issue. I'm going to choose one of the priorities, which is going to help drive our timers. And maybe one of the other questions I want to do is actually associate maybe the laptop I'm having the issue from, or maybe there's a specific printer that I've got this issue with as well, and I'll associate that as well to this particular ticket. Now, on doing so, once I've collected all that information, I can click Finish and raise that request. On doing so, once that ticket has been raised, I can see that we've got the prefixes that are fully definable. We've done away with the reliance simply on the F. But if I view that particular request now, myself as an analyst gets that visibility of that heads-up display. What we've also got here is our in-app trainer, as aptly referred to our continuous deployment methodology. This basically means we are pushing features and updates out to you all the time. And to let you know, rather than you having to read manuals all the time, we're just going to give you the in-app notifications either in context or at the top, where you might have videos to view or wiki information which you can go and look at relating to all the new features. All very self-explanatory on here. Okay. But if we have a look at the request here, what can we see? Well, we can see there's a heads-up display with multiple stages. We can see that there's some checkpoints that have been achieved which denote the fact that it's been assigned to a particular team. It's been an automatic email has been sent, and also there's a timer running here. But we can see there's still one thing that needs to have been achieved in this stage that I've defined, and that's actually for an analyst in that team to actually pick it up and work on it. So the business process has actually taken me in context on our action bar to where that action needs to be performed. So I can drop in here and say, right, I'm logged in as Graham. I'm going to pick up that particular request, and on doing so, that checkpoint is achieved. We move on to the next stage, and on this particular occasion, an activity, a task has been created for someone to look into this particular desktop support issue. I'll come back to that in a second. There's lots of manual things I'm sure you'd expect you'd be able to do on this request, so we'll just quickly cover those off. First and foremost, I can provide very simple updates and make those customer or privately facing. All of those updates then go into our timeline, which is your audit trail for this particular request. If I want to cut and paste images in, I can take things like screenshots and simply put them in there as an error, and I can then upload that to the request. All of those updates then will appear in line in the timeline for you as the analyst and also the end user. So I don't have to drill into the call diary to look for those updates all of the time. Other options you've got, scheduling callbacks and creating tasks and reminders for when you actually want to follow up with that customer. Adding attachments, but dragging and dropping those attachments in to support the ability to look at a file share. Just simple, intuitive ways to do that. The ability to raise linked problems or changes, or if you want to search for related tickets, again, do that from across the middle. Are there any related problems or known errors that might help me resolve my issue? If I link my incident to a problem, if that problem had a workaround, what is that workaround information? I want that to be available to me on the instant. I don't have to go looking for it. Do I want to accept that resolution that's been proposed down to me or not? I can decide to review that accordingly. Other options like sending emails out and using default snippets like I called and left you a message, and passing through all the information from the ticket, who the customer is, what was the reference number, who's the analyst that's looking after that, what was the issue to do with. All of that information is contained here, as is the ability to escalate, add interested parties or impacted users raised on behalf of, all the standard things I'm sure you'd expect to see on here. In addition to that, you can also follow the tickets, so similar to the watch call queues and support works, if I want to continue to get updates about the progress of that ticket, and if I'm not owning it, then I can follow that ticket. I can assign or create tasks as we've looked at, but I can also drop in subject matter experts as and when I need them. So in this occasion, I might want to bring our change manager into this conversation. And perhaps Rosemary doesn't normally have the rights to look at my tickets or my queue. What we can do is elevate her rights just for this particular ticket to actually get her assistance, but by keeping control of what else she can see. Now, by adding Rosemary, she'll get a notification that she's been added as a member. But if I also want to help out and let her know what assistance I need, I can mention her here and she'll get a targeted communication letting her know what was needed. Okay, and let's be really generic here. Can you help? And she'll get notified about those updates. So again, it's just about trying to integrate those collaborative aspects along with our traditional ways of working. Okay. So coming out of this and having a look at some of the other aspects that are available in Service Manager, if you're not an analyst, you're not working on the frontline team, perhaps you're the change manager. Perhaps you want a completely different perspective on how you see the service desk and how you see changes and how you want to work with those changes. So here we can introduce the concept of our boards. Now the boards allow you to represent all of the changes that are currently in flight against your change process at any given time. You can represent the life cycle stages of your change process and see which tickets are, in this example, still waiting in the incoming queue, those that are sat with the change team waiting to be assessed, those that are with CAB approved or in progress. And this can be a real-time bird's eye view because it doesn't rely on human intervention to move these cards from one queue to another, as you can obviously do, because the business process tool can automatically move those changes through your lifecycle stages as you complete the impact assessments, the reviews, the CAB approvals in your actual tickets. This is a fantastic view to use. It's equally applicable for looking at maybe a fulfillment process for procurement requests that you've had, or even if you're interested in incident management and you want to have a look at, and here's again our Harry popping up with a new feature that we've added in there as well about editing boards. This allows you to say, alongside my escalation actions, which might be email notifications, it might be reassignments, it might be the increases of priority, I can also create a board to show me everything that's going to breach today, or in the next 2 hours, or the next half an hour has breached. And I might want to have a personal view of this, or as a team lead I might want to create my own view, or as the service delivery manager I might want to look at all of my teams and where those tickets are at risk and create those views. But if we come back to that concept of collaborative service management, one of the best places to visualize that is actually from our news feed. And this is where information comes to you in the context of your job and the things that you're interested in. So if we have a look at what's actually on here, first and foremost, I might be interested as a first-line analyst in what changes are ongoing. I might be following particular tickets and seeing the updates that are coming through. I might have had documents shared with me and that have been updated, so again I'm seeing notifications. Problems might have been reported, so I'm getting notifications about that. They might have been reported from our Paris office, for argument's sake, and posted in French, but using the translate option I can see that in my local language. But anything like major incidents, questions, all of that information is cascaded down to me because I'm interested in the subject matter. We can also introduce our concept of workspaces. Workspaces just give you a facility to bring users together to collaborate on a particular subject matter. Examples might be projects to replace a service management tool, but they could also be where you might want to bring together in a first-line FAQ workspace all the experts from your first-line team, your second-line team, your application security infrastructure experts, and provide a facility where your users, James on this occasion, can come in and ask questions, and the rest of your support team can come in and provide the answers. And they can provide the answers again in their local language, but the key part here is they can also validate the answers that their colleagues are providing, so that James can have confidence in Pablo's answer and he can provide that information back to his customer. Now this is really just about the conversations that generally happen in email or might be discussed by the coffee machine. It's just about capturing that information in the tool. And if we do capture that information in the tool, that information then becomes reusable. So using the global search option at the top, if I wanted to look for any content that had been logged previously about our VPN software, I can do a generic wildcard search on that. If I wanted to narrow it down to say, just show me things that have been posted in the last 6 months since we upgraded that software, I can do that. If I just want to limit that down to Daniel because he's our expert in that type of software, again I can do that. Or if again I want to limit it even further just to specific workspaces, I can do all of that at the same time. This again shows me another question that's been asked, an answer that's been provided, and some validation of the answer by the colleagues that work in that support team. So if those experts leave the business, because the communication's taking part in the tool, it's all captured and reusable going forward. But Abdi did mention as well that there is a need to support that tacit knowledge or unstructured knowledge with the more explicit or structured documents and process diagrams, etc. So on here, this is where we might look for our change management process. And I could have a look using our document tag search. And I can see that change management process here. Now this introduces our document manager app, and this allows me to create documents or upload them It allows me to share and work on those documents with my colleagues before we publish them. We're keeping full revision histories of those documents, and once we're ready to publish them, we can move them out to wider libraries that are more widely accessible. The challenge we're trying to address here is that one that's associated with having multiple versions of a document floating around your network shares and never really knowing if it's the most latest or up-to-date one, or who owns that document and is responsible for keeping it up to date. Or if an email is being passed, a document's being passed around via email, am I looking at the most up-to-date version? Having all of that information checked in and controlled through Document Manager on the same platform means that you always only have one version and it's all searchable alongside all of your other content. Now, Document Manager is just another example of a line of business application that sits alongside Service Manager, Configuration Manager, Customer Manager, and a Timesheet Manager app that we're looking to release shortly. Now, they're all standalone applications in their own right, but when they're installed together, they have various plugins that allows you to leverage additional functionality in each of those applications. Now, the platform that we're looking at today does facilitate this collaboration, and to do that, you have access to the tasks that are underpinned by any of the applications that I've just referred to, plus non-application specific tasks. You have the access to bookmark things that you want to come back to. The platform's provided with instant messaging capabilities in there, so you can have all of your one-to-one conversations as well as having your workspace conversations. So with all that in mind, the last thing I'm just going to come back to is the output you can get from this. And we briefly touched and looked at the Analyst View, where they're able to come in and build their own views, create their own personal dashboards, export that data. But if we've got a need for more of an analytical view on this, then Hornbill is shipped with an analytics package. In that package is a trending engine. That trending engine allows you to build and define your own measures. And those measures could be things like how many incidents are you resolving daily, weekly, monthly? What's your average resolution time? What's your first time fix rate? But the key thing here is to set targets against those measures and then see how you're performing against those targets periodically, again, daily, weekly, monthly. Now, while that trending engine's running away and collating that data for you all the time, why not take those measures and create widgets and create charts and other lists and other types of content, put those widgets onto role-based dashboards and share those dashboards, wallboard those dashboards in the office or in specific the support function. Or if you've got a lot of data, why don't you combine multiple dashboards by daisy chaining them together into a single dashboard slideshow and have these dashboards and widgets transitioning through on a 10-15 minute basis, all the data refreshing accordingly. But it's probably the quickest and easiest way for you to get some visualization of the type of output that you can expect from Service Manager. Okay, at this point I'm going to pass you back to Abdi, and he's just going to summarize on some of the other benefits from the overall solution.
Brilliant, thanks Steve, great demo. So just to wrap up very quickly, before we finish here, I'm just going to take you back through a couple of the key benefits that we offer at Hornbill in relation to Service Manager. But just to recap on some of our core values, so why work with Hornbill? I know you guys obviously are using support and work with us for some time potentially, but just to refocus, we're all about customers, we're all about working with our customers through collaboration, and most importantly with quality not compromise is a key mantra for us in regards to, particularly on the Service Manager aspect, because of things being pushed out automatically to you, it needs to be of a high quality effectively. So what next? Well, in essence, what we're offering all our customers is the ability to undertake what we call a 30-day satisfaction guarantee, and really this is an opportunity for you to effectively satisfy yourselves that the Hornbill platform and the Service Manager app and the other associated apps that Steve showed you there will meet your requirements, both technically, from a performance perspective, just usability. We'll be able to deliver your processes, reporting, whatever aspect you are important to you. So this guarantee is all about removing the risk associated with trying to pick and implement a new solution. And so as an organisation, we've built this into our sales model for the Hornbill platform, in that every customer gets this 30-day guarantee, and as part of that, we give you the opportunity to effectively put us to the test. And what do we mean by that? Well, in effect, the guarantee gives you three key aspects. The first of which is that we give you access to the service free for 30 days, which really gives you a chance to get to grips with Hornbill and understand what the solution does or doesn't do, and if it does meet your requirements fully. Now, in order to facilitate that, we also provide you with what we call free implementation, and that's done in the form of what we call a switch-on service, which basically means we'll give you one of our product specialists for 30 days or access to a product specialist for 30 days to help you configure, implement the solution, do your key integrations, suck in your data, and basically get the system stood up and working for you so you can see it actually operational within your scope of your environment, if you like. Thirdly, we give you free training. So aside from obviously giving you access to the system and setting it up, what we believe is really key is that you have a good understanding of how to manage that solution going forward. So during that 30 days, we'll also transfer knowledge and train your primary and secondary contacts, if you like, on how to use and administer Hornbill, so that should you decide to go forwards with Hornbill, you have all of that knowledge already in place. And it's only once you've got all three of those things in place and you're in an informed position that we then give you the choice to decide whether you want to accept or reject the solution. The choices are absolutely yours, and regardless of whether you choose to go ahead and subscribe to Hornbill or not, we'll still have done all of that work for you. So in essence, as I said on the previous slide back, we're taking away all the risk associated with moving to Hornbill from SupportWorks or another tool, if you like. Over 95% of people who've gone on to that trial process have effectively come out the other side and subscribed to Hornbill. So it's very, very successful for us on people that do take that step to put us to the test effectively. So 4 key things that we offer as part of the Hornbill platform, and these aren't product related, they're more sort of general differentiators, if you like, that we put forward, and again worth just putting on the table here just to wrap up. So the first one, just to recap, it's service, not software. So there isn't any notion of upgrades, there isn't any notion of having to redo customizations. With the Hornbill platform, you're simply always up to date like you are on your consumer apps outside of work, and we know how easy that is to keep up to date on those. Secondly, price for life. Once you subscribe to Hornbill, we offer you a price for life guarantee, and basically what that means is that in the future, if we ever put the price up for Hornbill Service Manager or any of the associated apps that you subscribe to, your pricing stays fixed. So you have a guaranteed price, and effectively you have certainty as to what the service is going to cost you now and in the future. Thirdly, train for life. It's important, as we recognised on the previous slide, that you have people inside your organisation who know how to administer Service Manager. And one of the key reasons we've seen people move away from SupportWorks or any of the other tools that we replace on a regular basis is simply this: they haven't got anyone left in their organisation who understands the capability of the tool that they have in place. Powerful as it may be, if you haven't got any knowledge or expertise internally, then it's of no use to you at all. So part of our process with the Hornbill Service Manager solution is that we'll actually give you train for life guarantee, which means that if the people that we've trained up as part of your initial switch on, move on, get promoted, whatever it may be, we will actually take on the task of training your new product champion, as we would call them. So all you have to do is let us know who the new person is, and we'll train them, and we'll keep doing that for as long as you're a customer. All you need to do is let us know who needs training to be your key person that your organisation, or persons that your organisation regards to looking after Hornbill. And the last one really is around contract tie-in. So one of the things we've made a conscious decision about is having happy customers, not contractually bound customers. And in the cloud model, typically means that you end up getting locked in for a given period. And we've taken the step of not building that into our contracts, which basically means that you have the ability to walk away if you're not 100% satisfied at any time, without any notice and for whatever reason. So what that does really is it gives us a certain level of, I guess, behaviour, if you like, or makes us behave in a certain way, so that we have to put in good features, we have to make sure that the product performs, we have to listen to our customers, and if you're not entirely happy, you've got the right to vote with your feet, so to speak. So those are 4 things that are worth just bearing in mind as you're looking at taking the step to Hornbill Service Manager. So in terms of costs, again, feel free to speak to your RM for more detail, but in very, very simple terms, it's a simple, transparent pricing plan. It scales to fit all different types of teams, and it's based on a named user subscription per month for each analyst that's providing support. So end user support in terms of the portals is free. It's purely just the analysts, the people that provide support, that need to be subscribed, and that works out at £42.50 per user per month. And as it says here, that scales with volume. So the more users you add, the better the price gets per user. And it's this price plan that we actually lock as part of our price for life guarantee. So that means that you still benefit from all the volume discounts, but you will be insulated, as I said earlier on, against any future price increases. Okay. So that's it for now. Thanks for your time. I'm going to take any questions that we've had, and we'll address those quickly for you. before we wrap up and hand back to Sarah. So, do you have any questions there, Steve?
We do. We've got a couple.
Okay.
We're questioning about where our data centres are located. I don't know if you want to take that one.
Yeah, that's a good one. That comes up quite a lot. So we actually got an FAQ about this, which we can share with you on through your RM potentially. But in essence, the data centres are in the UK. Your data stays within the EU, and all of that's dealt with in our contracts under data protection rules.
Fantastic. And there's another question here about migrating existing data, so calls and such like from support work.
Sure. So as part of the switch on, you get a lot of the work done for you in terms of your basic integration, so email, Active Directory, setting up your your process, building reports and so forth. But as an existing SupportWorks customer, we go potentially further in respect to migrating call data. So if you are thinking about coming across the Hornbill Service Manager from SupportWorks and you do want to bring across any of your historical call data, whether that's all of it or just your open tickets, for example, we can take care of that for you.
Fantastic. And then there's a linked one like that regarding integrations with asset discovery tools. Maybe I'll take that one for you.
You want to do that one?
So absolutely. Obviously in SupportWorks you have the ability to import asset data from CCM or a variety of these other tools. Obviously on premise that's very straightforward. With Service Manager those options are still available to you, they're just slightly different, but absolutely there's a utility available to you. You can run locally, hook that up to your SCCM or other MS SQL or MySQL backend databases and schedule the importing of newer updates to your assets. Equally you can choose to use a very simple CSV import option for non-networked assets, mobiles, etc. Or if someone wants to sit there they can manually key it in as well. All those options are catered for.
Brilliant.
I've got one more there, which is just about the licensing. Is it? They're asking whether it's concurrent or named.
Okay, so as I said earlier on, it's a cloud-based tool. So again, by definition, you're always connected because you've got your mobile apps, for iOS and Android. So it is a named subscription, named monthly subscription, and not concurrent. But if you have got concurrent SupportWorks licenses, then we do have a way of working out with you as to how many named users you're going to require going forward.
So just speak to your RM.
Yeah, speak to your RM for that.
Perfect.
So on that note, thanks for your time today. I'm going to hand back to Sarah here very quickly to wrap up. But just while I do that, let's bring up this last page, as I say, which covers some links that you might be interested in.
Thank you, Abdi and Steve, for taking us through that presentation. I hope everyone found it useful. If you have any additional questions, please don't hesitate to contact me or your relationship manager. Finally, thank you everyone for your time today. Goodbye.